Alrighty then, we're doing another live paint and sip class. We're going to be doing something simple with acrylic paints. You'll notice that we're going to be painting on another canvas. And so painting is like taking medicine. It just makes you feel good. So we're not going to worry about what we're going to paint. We're just going to paint for the fun of painting. So you could take one of your old canvases and just scrape out the old image, which is what I did here. And then you could easily, hi Carrie, good to see you. You could easily start the painting process from there. So it gives you the opportunity to use older canvases just to paint, just to enjoy the process, not to worry about what your end result is going to be, other than the fact that you got to paint for the afternoon, because it's just relaxing and it's fun and it's easy. So you can go grab yourself a cup of tea like I did and go ahead and start your painting process. I'll show you last time we painted the vase. We painted this white one. And you'll notice that I went back and added a little bit of yellow to the white because the white was just too white. So I went ahead and added a little touch of that yellow, and it really did make it spring off the page. It looks a lot better. It's not just so solid white. I paint with it some more, play with it, maybe these flowers up in here, I'm not sure, but several of you had asked about what I finished it with, and I actually use this clear glaze finish. And the reason why is because it puts a nice coat on it so that people can wipe it clean and continue on. I wouldn't put a candle in it. I put these little in it. I'll show you that. But I also tried the clear finish where you brush it on with your brush and you dunk the brush in the can of paint. And it didn't respond so well. Even though it was acrylic or water-based acrylic, the spray on actually worked so much better. It had like a clear coat on it. You can get this almost at any hardware store, and works really great. And those are fun projects. Okay, so here we go. Let's go ahead and start on our canvas. So what we'll do today is we'll just play around by first putting some lines on. We'll do a garden gate with lavender. That will be super easy, super fun. Hey Cynthia, thanks for watching. Okay, so we're going to do a garden gate that will be super easy, super fun. We're working on an older canvas, and we're going to go ahead by starting to put some lines down. Now the lines, let's go ahead and just break up our canvas right in half. You could even do this on a piece of cardstock paper or just any old canvas like I'm using here. I wanted to use a new canvas, but then I thought, you know, people need to know that using an older canvas for this thing is really, really great. Oh, thanks, Gary. What a nice message. And anyway, so we broke the canvas in half. And we went ahead, and now we have two spaces. That makes the canvas, we just instantly broke it in half. So with these two spaces, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put two boxes right around these two spaces, all the while knowing I'm putting a box kind of around this one and a box, making them the exact same height. Making them the same height. I don't want this one to be too high. So I'm starting off by breaking up the canvas in the center of the canvas. Oopsie, I'm going to center that a little bit more. I'm looking through the phone when I should be looking at the canvas, and it kind of messes with you a little bit. So what we're going to do is the first thing we do is we break up the canvas in two. We just broke it up in half. There's two sides to the canvas. Now we're going to put a box. We'll put a nice box around each side that we broke up. So we now have two boxes. We want these boxes to be about the same size. So this one has to come out a little bit more, and this one's about right there, because look, now we have two boxes right onto the canvas, which makes it super easy to start to build on. We just broke it up in half using an old canvas, and then we put two boxes right around the halves. It doesn't have to be exact. The only thing that really does matter is that these lines, so that they don't look like the fence is tilting or falling over, they need to go straight up and down and nice and flat. Okay, make it super easy. You can always look at the edge of your canvas to get a reference from. Now we're going to add the gate, and we want the gate to be slightly opened. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the top of this side, and we're going to put a little tiny bit of a dot that comes down. It just comes down from that side. It comes just down a little bit. And we'll take another one and we'll bring that one down a little bit too. So what we did was these are on the same plane, straight up and down, is these two dots are going to represent the outer edge of the gate, but they come a little bit further down than the tops of the fence. Just a little tiny bit. And then you see how at the bottom, they actually come that amount of space below the bottom too. So they're the same. And then we're going to take those two dots and just connect them to the bottom of the fence over here. And then connect these two dots once again with the line going straight up and down, because we don't want it to look like the gate's falling. If you did it any other direction other than straight up and down, it would look like the gate was leaning or getting ready to tip, which would be fine too, but just you can always add that later if you want to add interest. Okay, so now we have two fence sides. We also have a behind the fence, and then we have our little gate, which we just added by adding two dots a little bit lower than the top of the fence and a little bit lower than the bottom of the fence, connected all those lines. There you go. Now we're going to go ahead and we are going to switch colors. So we're going to clean out our brush. I'm just going to use a little tiny bit of sienna, and the sienna is just a little bit of a red brown, and I'm going to go ahead and put a grounding line or a line of horizon. I'm going to put it up above the fence. I'm putting it up above the fence. There we go. So now I have a place to go through the gate, and I also have a place in the foreground below the gate. So let's go ahead and add a small pathway while we have the sienna in the brush, small curved line down here below this side, because we know that the fence is going to have this walkway through it, so we may as well just make two curved lines. You'll notice that these are curved lines that go against each other, and then they have a sort of a grounding spot. So we now have the foreground, we now have the middle ground, which is in here because we know that as you walked through the gate there would be some middle ground, and then we also have a background up in here. So let's go ahead and paint all of that middle ground with a nice grounding color. Now look at how easy that was, just to spread some color around so you don't see the underlying image. I want to get rid of that. All we're really doing the whole time that we're painting is making it easy for our eyes to see the image. Okay, so now we have this foreground. We're going to put some lavender bushes here because they rock, and we're going to put some over here, and then we're going to put something greenery back in here to close this off, because a lot of times if you have a gate that goes through somewhere, they're usually a house or some bushes or something, and we know that we would probably see something in the horizon. So let's just go ahead and start breaking it up by putting some sort of a bushes on this side, and we'll just fill it in a little tiny bit with the color on there, just dragging it out, helping my eyes see it. And then we're going to go ahead and put another bush on this side and another one on this side, and that leaves us with two puzzle pieces in the background, and we have a sky puzzle piece. We have this pathway that goes through here. Maybe that's where the people have their backyard, and this is the fence with the lavender in front of it. Or maybe that goes out into the yard or the neighbors or something. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, so now we have the fence, we have the walkway through the fence, we have some greenery in the background. We're gonna end up having a sky somewhere through here. So on this image, you could actually have two different colors of sky. If you wanted to do a pretty blue sky, let's just see what that looks like. Oh, there's a pretty blue sky. We could easily do that. But say, for example, you didn't like that so much. You could actually go in and say, you know, I think I might like a warmer sky. So let's just wipe that out with a little tiny bit of a rag. You can get rags that are so much better to use than paper towels. You can get a lot of use out of them. And you can put them in the washing machine. I've been doing it for years. It doesn't hurt anything and it's perfectly fine. However, I'm not a mechanic, so I don't know, but I've been doing it for years. And now, and you can easily use rags over and over again. So now let's say, I didn't want the blue, I want the white. So let's add a little bit of that white, and let's add a warmer sky with a little tiny bit of yellow. I have a little tiny bit of yellow in with the white, and I'm softening that white. Now look, I have a warmer sky, maybe an afternoon sky, maybe a little bit more yellow over here, and just a soft, warmer sky. Maybe add a little more white. If you're ever having an issue with the paint not being enough, not being thick enough, then you can easily add a little bit more white. Now the white is going to soften it, no getting around that, but it is so that you can't see through it so much. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but I'm trying to do some loose curved lines just to get a little tiny bit of variation in the color. You want some variation in the color because it looks so much more natural. If we make it one solid color, that would be fine too. However, it will look flatter. So when you get variation in color, it's so much better. Okay, so let's do a little bit of buildup. We now have some structure in the background. Let's do a little bit of a buildup on our fence. So we don't want to get too heavy duty, but we want to be able to see the fence here and there through the flowers, because we're going to end up adding flowers all over here. So let's go ahead and structure a little tiny bit of the fence. Hello to all of you who are waving. Woohoo, we're painting. Yeah, so and that's what I was saying. We're painting on an old canvas because painting is just fun. It doesn't have to be anything other than something that brings you joy, something, especially when you need it, when you're like, oh, I just want to turn everything off and go relax, go grab a glass of wine or a cup of tea, and you can easily relax with painting. So it doesn't have to be something every single time. It's kind of like all those tomato plants that you grow. Not every single one's going to be perfect, and you don't have to eat every tomato that it throws. You can give them to neighbors or whatever. Okay, so now I'm just restructuring my fence. This is the gate, and let's go ahead and add some lines. I should have shown you this, but I'm going to show you on the other side. Let's add some lines to start to break up the fence. The easiest way to break up an area I want it to be evenly divided is to go right to the center, add a line straight down, and then you just broke up that two pieces into another two pieces. Let's go ahead and break it up again. So now we have sort of an evenly divided up gate area. Well, let's add some interest and go ahead and divide up the gate part and add a little bit. Let's just break it up a little bit. Now remember, these lines will be the same as these at the same angle. Lines either go up or down, or they slightly angle. And this one angles go slightly down. You already did the homework. You figured out this. You figured out the bottom and the top. We're just going to use those and put those lines right there. Awesome. Now these lines right here still need to go straight up and down. If they don't, it will look like the fence is slightly falling over. You don't want it to do that. Okay, so now we have a little bit of a structure. Let's add some of those lines in there, like you had maybe a little bit of an extra gate prettiness. You could even go so far as to add like one of those lines on top of the gate that adds extra interest, extra detail, but we're just not going to do that right now, so I'm just going to pick that up. I do that all the time. You can play with stuff, add stuff, subtract stuff. Let your eye decide. The eye knows. The eye is built with perspective, and it knows what it likes. Okay, so we did a little bit of backing on the fence for coolness. Now we're going to have to let that dry for just a second. We're still going to come back to this area and add the lavender bushes, but we have to let the fence behind it dry. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip to another puzzle piece. Let's go ahead to these background green puzzle pieces, and let's add, because this one's further in the distance, I'm loading my brush with that lemon yellow so that the lemon yellow doesn't get taken away with the green. Put a little bit of that lemon yellow on there, and look at how just a dot of green in there goes such a long way. Well, if this was further away, it would be slightly lighter in color. Things that are further away, higher up on the canvas, get lighter in color. You can look at the mountains around you and notice the ones that are furthest away are lightest in color. So I'm adding a little tiny bit of white on top of that, and when that just created a little tiny bit of distance. Okay, so we now filled in that puzzle piece. Now let's go ahead and fill in these other two, this one over here and this one over here. We're going from the thing furthest away, closest to us, letting our gate dry because, hey Nora, good to see you. Okay, so then we're gonna come add some of this darker green over here. Look at how intense that green can get. Just a little tiny bit of that darker, go right to the other side and load that side with a little bit of that darker green. And then I'm gonna touch this lemon yellow again and let it hit that darker green and let those two colors blend. This is a slight curvy line, just minuscule, little half curves. I'm gonna let it stop there. Ground. It's going to be grounded. We're going to add some shadow. Every time I take my brush, I have to reload it with a fresh load of that lemon yellow. Let it touch the green. Those two colors have to merge in order to get a color. Now I'm going to bring it out a little bit because I don't want it to be perfect. I want it to have a little bit of a haphazard look to it, like in nature, but still around. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and clean out my brush. I'm going to ground those two bushes like we talked about by adding some shadows underneath the bushes itself. And the best way to add shadows is to use a warm or cool color, sometimes the opposite of what you're using. So if you're using yellow, you could use purple, which would look pretty. So okay, we'll use purple. But because purple is such a pretty color, we don't want it to look too cartoony. So we're gonna add a little tiny bit of sienna brown to it. Now, if you can see the tip of my brush, I have sienna brown in there and purple. A lot of times I just load the brush with both colors, knowing that I'm gonna mix it right up here on the canvas. And let's go ahead and ground those two. You can see the purple and the brown together. Now I'm just grounding those two. I just added a shadow underneath the two bushes. Now look at this bush compared to this bush, and you can see, oh yeah, this one's still floating in the air, but this one isn't. So he's a grounded one, and he needs to be grounded. We'll go ahead and just rock my brush. When I'm touching the ground, I'm using flat horizontal brush blends, because if I were to put my hands on the ground, it would go flat, and you want things to go in the direction of the subject because it helps the subject look more realistic. So we'll go ahead and ground those two bushes, and we grounded this one too. Now look at how cool this is. We could actually push this bush further away by just simply, oopsie, not by doing that, but by adding the line, making this line go higher up the canvas. Okay, look at, that is not the color I'm going for. I'm going for purple, but the blue keeps coming out. Okay, see how we just take this line and push it back, and look at how it makes the bush look further away or further back away from the viewpoint by just pushing the line. And the only reason I showed you that is because what if when we got back to our garden gate, we wanted this line to go up or down? Say some people, not any of you because you're awesome, but some people could actually end up with a gate that's too low, and it looks like, oh no, my gate looks like, I don't know, but it's too low. You could move that line just like we did here. You could move it either further up or further down by using this color to move it down, or using the gate itself to move it up. So you always want to know that the line can go up or down, and you'll always can ask your eye knows. Now I'm going to fill in this background around these colors with yellow and white. You would be doing the same thing if we were in a class together. We'd be like, everybody put some yellow and white and fill in this puzzle piece. This is the puzzle piece that goes through the gate, behind the gate, and in front of the gate. But we're only going to fill from the background to the bottom. We're loading with lemon yellow and white in that background, soft in the distance, and nothing too specific. Now, hey, just so a reminder, we talked about that line moving. Say, for example, my gate got all cattywampus, and I've seen lots of cattywampus gate, but I want mine to go straight up and down. I could use this background color again and straighten out that gate. Straighten out lines here and there, still using flat horizontal in the direction of the blend. Now look, I have the foreground, then I have a little bit of a background. I don't want to leave this to where it looks like dark and then light. I want to blend those two colors ever so slightly together, all the while knowing that this one can overtake that one and that one as well. But I know that there is a transition between the dark and the light. If you look at any shadow out any window, you will notice that the shadows aren't just one color. The shadows are lots of colors. They are usually darker at the bottom of the subject and they get lighter as they move away from the subject. But for example, to let your eyes see, because you might be saying, Lisa, I don't believe you, man. I don't know anything about what you're saying, but I don't know if I believe you. What if we had a shadow coming off from over here? Say there was another tree. It's like, oh, I could add another tree. And the only reason I show you that is because what if, just saying, what if you had a big giant area right here and your gate was lower on the page? And you're like, oh, dude, that just looks like one big yellow area. I need to break it up. You could act as if there's a shadow coming off from the same side, even a little bit from this side, because what if it was coming up and over like a tree? And you can break up the background area. You can break up any area by adding shadows, and you would just add shadows exactly like the foreground. Now let's just go ahead, that was a bloop, and add a little bit more breakup. Maybe there's more trees, people, or something, I don't know, going by. And let's just add a little bit of color down in here. When you want to add drama to your paintings, because you all love to have a little bit of drama, it's just like that oh moment, you can add a little bit of darkness down at the bottom. See, I'm just using straight purple for now just to get that layer of darkness going. Super cool. Okay, so now look at what we've done in just a short amount of time. We have added our nice gate, our nice fence and the gate. We added that background with those two different puzzle pieces of the bushes on each side, and then those bushes in the back. Notice how those bushes in the back are purposely lighter in color. That tricks the eye into seeing 3D and going, hey, I could walk around that bush and go to the neighbors. But we also have the sky puzzle piece, which lets our eyes travel back up into the painting. And we haven't even got to the good stuff yet. Okay, so now we have this beautiful fence. We have this foreground, and we have the gate that opens, and the walkway that comes through. Let's go ahead and add our lavender bushes. Now, the lavender bushes are the bombshell of the whole painting, and they are super easy, super fun, and they look spectacular. Now, when we've been talking, well, I've been talking this whole time about going in the direction of the brush blend. Well, now, if a lavender bush was sitting right here and it wanted to be painted, it would say, I need to go in a curve like a lavender bush that comes up and around all the area. So what we're going to do is we're going to start on this side, and I'll show you on this side, and then we'll jump over here and we'll do it again on this side, and it will be really, really pretty. Now, what I'm going to do on the bottom part of the lavender bush is I'm going to put that blue that just keeps popping up. I'm going to put a curve of it. Now, that is nice and wet. Say you're one of those people who you have like a gazillion things going on, and you're like, oh, dude, I have to do 4 other things before I get this done. You could actually run and grab a spray bottle and give the whole canvas a light mist. See how I gave it just a light mist? Then you could go make a phone call. You could go get your tea. You could go do whatever you wanted to do, and it would still be there a little bit damp when you got back. But for the most part, you really should just paint it while you have it wet. So I put blue on the bottom. This is like a phthalo blue, really, really deep, intense blue. I'm going to go ahead and add gorgeous, super sexy purple in the middle. Look at that. Purple in the middle. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All you people waving, you all rock. Okay, I'm going to admit it. I'm not reading so many the comments. You guys are all so awesome. I'm trying to focus on the painting because otherwise I get all sidetracked. Easy to do. Okay, so now I have that beautiful purple. Now that purple is a little bit transparent. Little bit transparent. Rock on. You guys are awesome. Okay, so blue, a little bit of purple. Now check this out. This is super cool, and you could do this even on a paper plate. Look at you like, oh, dude, I'm so on a budget. I'm going to cut my paper plate in half, and I can do it on the other side. I'm going to show you how to do it on a simple paper plate once we're done over here, because you're going to watch it a couple of times. And I know from my experience that if you watch me a couple times, it makes it easier for you to do at home. Okay, so now let's take white. We have pure, beautiful, awesome sauce, white. Okay, so white, purple, and blue. I'm going to go ahead and leave that white in the brush. You could rinse it out if you really want to, like a squeaky clean person. That would be okay, but look at what happens. I'm going to go in that same curved line, and I'm going to put small dashes. This first one that you do is like the experiment. You're just getting used to making the small dashes like the flower on the lavender. Now I'm going to go right down into the purple. Look at that. The white is blending with the purple. We know that as it gets closer, further down the canvas, it's going to get darker. We're just doing it in small dashes, then another row. We're now into our third row. I'm going down into the blue. Now look at what we did. We just created beautiful lavender bushes. And I'm going to take that blue and I'm going to go back up again too and let it go a little bit into that white. Might want to make it haphazard here and there. I don't want it to be too perfect, but in just a few brush blends, we did a gorgeous lavender bush. Okay, let's do another one. Let's grab some blue again. Same blue, dark, super pretty. Now this one has to fill in this space, but you don't want to put it too much more. Now this one doesn't have any sprayed water on it, so I got to hustle my bustle a little tiny bit. Oh, there's that blue. Okay, so there's that purple again. You see how that purple's a little bit transparent, a little bit see-through. I might have to beef that cookie up just a little bit. There we go. I'm putting a nice thick layer on there so that you can get a hold of that. And then I'm going to clean out my brush. I'm going to go to straight white. You'll notice that I'm painting right over the gate. That is because if you look outside, you will see that there is overlapping everywhere. Overlapping is one of the keys of perspective, and the minute you add it to your painting, it just rocks. Actually, it helps it look more real. I'm going to add a few highlights over here of that white just for fun. Couldn't help myself. Okay, now we're going to go back to this gorgeous blue. We're going to start at the white, and you see how this time I cleaned out my brush just to show you the difference between that side and this side. We're starting at the white, putting a nice, have to get a little bit of water out of my brush, putting a nice layer using those curved lines, curved dashed lines. They are curved dashed lines. That's all they are, and they go in a small curve. Oopsie, I shouldn't have done that. Oh well. It's only paint. We'll fix it. Okay, now smooth curved lines. Let's move right into the purple. Curved lines right down into the purple again and downward. Now we're in towards the blue. Now if I stopped right there, it would look good, but we want, plants don't glow super perfect. Want it to get, there's always a straggler or something. So all the way around the plant again, dragging out a few of the blends here and there. But we started the majority of it, we talked about it, with a little bit of blue, just one streak of blue. Then we added one streak of purple, because this is the highlight of this whole thing, one streak of purple, and then one streak of white. We started at the white, we started at top, oopsie, that's not working. And then we went into the purple, and then we went into the blue, all the while going all the way down. Then now we get a little haphazard. We come outside. That's why I'm showing you this. You come outside the line. You come back with that white and you add highlights in the front, because sometimes the plant is in the front. So we add highlights, but we started with that base. Once you start with that base of the blue on the bottom, purple in the middle, white on the top, white on the top, and then blend with the white down to the blue and back up again, you get rocking lavender. Okay, so now we can look at our fence and say, that is pretty dry. Let's add some in front of it. Let's add some white with a little bit of yellow to break it up. Some of that white with a little bit of yellow, kind of like those flowers that we just painted on that pretty vase. See, we painted the white flowers, but you'll notice I added a little bit of yellow to it just to perk it up a little bit, because a lot of times flowers actually have more than just one color in them. And if you look at any flower, you'll notice that even if it's all purple like an iris, it's a whole variation of purple, and sometimes it's dashes of blue. So let's add some flowers up in here, and just by blobbing them on, let's just do blobular flowers because they exist. Okay, and we blob it on. We're going to touch that green. We don't want to get it too heavy into that green, because green, if it touches that yellow, we'll want to marry it. Okay, so we put that nice white, pretty, pretty. And now you can kind of see we have some white. It has no greenery around it, but we want to add some other flowers too, not just white. So let's add some up and down flowers over here, like maybe they're hollyhocks and they go up. See how they're bigger at the bottom, wider at the bottom, and they progressively get smaller as you go up to a nice little point. I'm going to add some white to that one, drop off some paint, add that white back to it, and then give it a nice tip. And if you'll notice that these brushes, if you hit them on that perfect corner, it makes a perfect flower. Just on that corner, just on that very tiny, tiny tip right there. Oh, I shouldn't have touched it, but I did. Okay, and then you just bounce it on that one little edge. You will get a pretty little boop, boop flower. All of a sudden, you have hollyhocks, and they're yellow. Okay, now that we have the hollyhocks and we have these blobular things, still pretty, but we don't know what you are. And we have the lavender. We haven't added any greenery down here in the bottom. So let's go ahead and add the greenery, but first, behind the greenery, believe it or not, is a lot of that roadway where the walkway is that goes through it. So let's fill in that walkway. Once again, we're going to use that sienna. We'll just drop off some sienna. Look again how we just ran into a little bloop right there, a little out of the fence experience, and we need to crash it back into the fence. We can clean it up with this side of the line. So you can always go back. Look, I'm going to put a little bit of the dashes as if it goes up and through, and we'll put a little bit of dashes to clean up our fence. Then we're going to add some more of that down here. We're going to add some greenery down in there. And look at what happened. Now we're getting down towards the bottom of the canvas, and we want that drama in there because it looks good. It kind of draws the viewer's eye in. So we're going to go ahead and put that purple down in there. Now look at what happens. We talked about how purple is pretty as a shadow color, but to warm it up, here's a great example. We have a layer of purple and the sienna. Let's just take that purple and blend it up into that sienna, and you'll see we now have a warm purple. It's still purple and pretty because purple is pretty, but it's now warmer, so it looks more realistic to the eye. And most things in nature have some sort of an earthiness to them, even the greenery, stuff like that. Okay, I'm still dragging the purple, that sienna in the brush, so I am just gonna go ahead and drop it off here and there, still breaking up that background because I want the background to be broken up. Now we are going to go back to our awesome sauce fence. And that fence, this structure was just really loose, really easy just to get us going. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of variation to that fence. So let's go ahead and make it a little bit darker. You can make the fence whatever you want. You could even make it white. You could make it blue. You can make it whatever you wanted. But we're going to make it just a little bit so we can break up the colors. This is mostly white with a dot of black. It's mostly like a Payne's gray, which is like a shadowy black. And we're going to put a line on the fence to help define it a little bit more. Now that we have that line on the fence, let's fill it in. We first outlined it. Now I'm using that whole outline to fill it in, going around the lavender, going around here. Oopsie, I added some blue, and I really just wanted the black, which is over here. And then we're going to go and fill in all the other little bit hit and miss, because there will be hints of the fence showing through here and there, here and there. And same thing on the other side. I'm using mostly white with a little bit of that Payne's gray, and we're redrawing the fence, trying to keep the fence lines themselves somewhat evenly spaced so that they look more realistic. Okay, now looky here, we need to the background this nice dark color because we had those in the original. See how some of the lines changed? I wouldn't worry about it too much. It's called painting because it's Not supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to be painting. Now look at this painting. We come down here around the lavender. We have a nice front line. Look at what happens when we take that line and we add some pure white to it. Some pure white to it right here on this front edge. And it will break up the fence into tricking the eye into seeing the front of the fence and then the side of the fence. And let's do the same thing with the top. Let's put an edge on this one over here. Now we have a pretty nicely spaced fence with flowers all around it. We haven't added any of the greenery, but we know from life's experience that you see through certain times of the fence, so we know that we would see through there, and the color we would see through would predominantly be this background color. We have to fill in a little bit of that background color with that color that is on the pathway, because that pathway color would see through, and we're trying to find things to force overlapping because it's real tricky for the eye to see the overlapping. When we add this fence, these colors through here, the eye's like, oh yeah, that goes through, and that's normal, super normal. Okay, now once again, not trying to be super perfect, and I gotta add some of that color behind there. Still haven't added any of the greenery. Now, check it out. I may have messed up on my fence here and there. I wasn't too worried about it. Is what we've been talking about is we can move that line. Look at what happens. Say this fence, and it did, got out of whack, and it did. We could use the colors on the other side of the line, these background colors, to correct it. See how we just corrected any of the fence? Well, that one wasn't wrong, but it is now. No, it's good. We're good. Okay, so we got that background showing through, and what that does is it tricks the eye into seeing distance. So when you're trying to do 3D, it's all about some sort of a distance. So seeing through that fence helps us see that there would be some sort of a distance. Okay, now I'm going to take that yellow and in that brush and just splash it here and there. I'm trying to break up color every chance I get, all the while still keeping this foreground pathway piece darker at the bottom, lighter at the top. And now I'm just adding hints of other colors because there are other colors everywhere. Look at how this fence line right here just got all out of whack. It doesn't look so bad in the beginning, and I didn't even notice it, but now I'm looking at it going, that needs to be straightened up. So see what I do? I just straightened it all up. Now I have to blend it in with all the other colors, so I'll just drag it out here and there, splash a little bit of it up in here, splash a little bit of it down in there, and I now just corrected the fence. Very nice. Okay, so now we have beautiful lavender, nice little fence. We have our white flowers, and we have the hollyhocks. Let's go ahead and add some greenery, because the greenery will actually pull all of these flowers together. And we'll first load our brush with a little tiny bit of lemon yellow, and then we will add the green. So we have lemon yellow tucked under that green, and let's come up over here. Now this is still really wet, so I shouldn't be doing it, but I'm going to do it anyway because we're just painting for fun. So let's go ahead and add that lemon yellow and the green. The reason why I shouldn't be painting it is because it's going to mix with the black. Normally I would wait for a second, but we're just painting for fun. So I'm continually going back, touching that lemon yellow and the green, going in between all of these flowers, adding some greenery, and see how that greenery literally pulls everything together. It pulled this together. Now, we know that this guy doesn't garden. Well, he gardens all the time, but what if his plant decided to go up and over the fence? It went up and over the fence going, hey, party time at Joe's house. Okay, so that's what we're going to do when the quarantine's over. We're going to have a big street party where all the bars are just like, come on, come down here, hang out with us. Okay, so now we just included beautiful greenery all around the yellow or the white flowers. Now look at how those are not specific at all. We literally, hey Rhonda, we literally started off with blobs of white. They could be some kind of a white flower, and then we went greenery all around it to sort of tuck it in, and you can see hints of the fence here and there, nothing specific. Now let's go over to the other side and add some more green and white. over here on this side. We're still going, leaving the fence showing through. Here and there, we want to be able to see the fence slightly. Remember that overlapping. The eye wants to see some structure back there. So we'll give it a little bit, and we're going around. See how I did some mess ups on the fence right there? No worries. We'll just cover it up with some greenery. Now you can do a little bit of that, but you want the eye to see the real fence. Okay, now once again, this dude is an overgrown guy, so he's growing up and over the fence, yes. And we have the greenery up in here. Every single time I'm loading it, I'm touching that lemon yellow and a little bit of green and blobbing it down in here. And ever so often, I go ahead and make a streak, like a streak of paint, so that it comes and looks like growing plants that are growing on all directions. Okay, so then we can even come in here and add a few streaks down, like those are the stalks, and we could add a few streaks coming out, like it's coming across the fence, because it's just growing, man. It's a grower. We've got growers on our hands. Okay, there we go. Lots of greenery. Now look at how we just added that little tiny bit of greenery all around the flowers, and they're now singing. They're like, oh, do, 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 whatever they sing, flower songs, flower songs. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and take this whole shindig and party it on down into these two areas, because those are the lavender bushes, and everybody knows that lavender bushes have greenery too. So we'll go ahead and load our brushes with a little tiny bit of that lemon and the green. I'm mixing it right inside the brush because you get a way better effect on the canvas itself. I just dropped off a big blob of water. You probably didn't see it, but this brush will just pick it right up. Thank you, buddy. And we'll go back to this one. Incidentally, we're working with acrylic paint, so if you get too much water, you literally could take your brush and hold it up against a towel. The water would run out and the paint would stay in. So we're going to ground this lavender by putting some greenery. See how I'm using curved lines? We'll go back to our sample piece just to show you. We have this whole underground area. We're going to use curved lines in the same direction to fill in the whole area eventually, but it's a curved line right there. I'm doing a two-part mix right in the brush so it looks more natural, looks more realistic. Actually, it's called French Impressionism, when you mix the paint right on the surface of the canvas instead of mixing it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Everyone who's giving me the thumbs up, yeah, you're a painter and you know it. Even if you're painting a fence, you're painting something. Look, we're painting fences. Okay, so we're putting that greenery. Now look, we just grounded that piece. Compared to this one, it actually looks like it's now growing on the planet Earth. But we also know that, thank you, Mark. We also know that this greenery would be growing a little bit up inside the lavender, here and there, here and there. So let's go ahead and add a couple of flicks. Once again, he's a grower, so he might grow up and over that gate. And we're going to come over here and add some on this side. See how much that green just blends the whole piece together. Looking good. Okay, so now let's go over to the other side. I mean, if you compare the two sides, you can say this guy is rocking, this guy needs another beer. So let's go ahead and give him a beer, put him some nice little greenery with a little bit of that lemon yellow going in a curved shape around it, and then go ahead and adding a little tiny bit of it up into the lavender, because there would be some greenery growing up here in the lavender. Yes, and we want to grow around. Maybe if you had to, remember we talked about moving that line. If you had to move a line, you could push the line of the flowers back in line. We can come out a little bit. We could even add some greenery dashes over in here. And say you were all done, because we're like wrapping it up here, and you're like, oh dude, I just need one more flower. I need a flower somewhere. My mother loves, hey Bob and Darlene, how's it going, bro? We're still waiting on that video about winemaking from Butterfly Creek Winery. Okay, you want to add another flower. Let's say we add some over here. We're going to have to get dominant because there is that greenery there. So I'm going to add some red flowers right here. Just a dash of them. Not getting specific, letting it hit the green. Now look at that. We just made this corner sing songs that we haven't heard before. Let's add a few of them over here, just for fun. Now look at what we did. Just by a few hints of color, we actually finished the painting in record time. everyone. Hello, Bob. Let's add a little bit of shadow to that little bit underneath the lavender. Just a little tiny bit of that shadow. Little tiny bit. Just to break it up a little bit so that because we know that the lavender would leave a slight shadow anyway. Here and there, right under the plant, it's grounding the plant. Take those dashes of color and put them across the bottom. We still have that underlying purple here and there, and now we're gonna ground this one. Just a few hints of color. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for watching. This was so much fun. Remember, we just painted a simple painting just because we could. It doesn't have to be anything spectacular. This was on an old canvas. I'll probably go wash this off and use it 100 more times, but didn't we have fun painting? Painting is good for the soul, kind of like winemaking, Bob. It's good for the soul. Anyway, I love you all so much. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and week. Amen.